Hey everyone, it's Brandy and welcome back to my channel, Brandy Janae's Bookshelf. So as you can tell from the title of this video, this is going to be a wrap up for the N.E.W.T.s Readathon, which took place throughout the entirety of last month. For my career, I wanted to be a ministry worker working in the Department of Mysteries. I know that I don't know everything that entails, but I heard someone else talking about it in a TBR video or when they were talking about the N.E.W.T.s, and I was just like, oh, that sounds like that'll be fun. So I figured I would go do that. My requirements for this specific career was to get an A in Charms, Potions, Transfiguration, and Defense Against the Dark Arts, and then I also needed to get at least 4 O's and any of the other subjects that I wanted. I'm just gonna go through each of the subjects that I completed in the order that I have them listed. So the first subject that I completed in astronomy, and I was able to get an O in astronomy. To receive an A, which stands for acceptable in astronomy, the challenge was to read a book with moon on the cover or anywhere in the title. And for that one, I read Wicked Fox by Kat Cho. As you can see, there is the moon that is in the background. The same moon is also on the back cover as well. To receive an E in astronomy, which stands for exceeds expectations, the challenge was to read a book with the word night in the book title or series name. And for that one, I read Midnight Secretary Volume 2 by Tomu Omi. And finally, to receive an O in astronomy, which I believe stands for outstanding, the challenge was to read a sci-fi book, and for that one I read Aurora Rising by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. The next subject that I completed was Charms, and I also received an O in Charms as well. The challenge to receive an A in Charms was to read a book that you think has a gorgeous cover. For that one, I decided to go with Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. To receive an E in Charms, I had to read a comic, manga, or graphic novel. I believe there was also another option, but for this one I decided to go with Snow White with Red Hair Volume 1. To receive an O in Charms, I had to read a paperback book, and for that one I went with The Bride Test by Helen Huang. So with those 3, I also, like I said, received an O in Charms. So that was 2 of my O's completed and one of my other requirements that I needed to get. Moving on to another requirement, which was Defense Against the Dark Arts. Getting an A in Defense Against the Dark Arts, I had to read a book that was black under the dust jacket, and for that one I went with On the Come Up by N.E.W.T.s. And just in case you guys are curious, it is black. I think I had something on my hands possibly when I picked that up, but yeah, it's all black besides the writing on the spine. Next, I moved on to Potions. This was another class that I was trying to get an O in, but I only received an E in this specific subject. So to receive an A, I had to read my friend's favorite book, and for this one I decided to go with Bloodbound by Patricia Briggs. I might have mentioned this in my TBR, but I asked Lauren from the Novelush and Amanda from the Naughty Librarian what some of their favorite books was. Lauren mentioned the Mercy Thompson series, and I had read the first book, so I was just like, okay, I'm just going to pick book 2 in that series, and I used that to complete that challenge. And to receive an E in Potions, I had to read a book with a cover in your Hogwarts house color. I am a Ravenclaw, so I picked One Day in December by Josie Silver. Potions was also one of my requirements that I needed to get at least an A in. And then finally, the last of my official requirements was to get an A in Transfiguration, and the challenge for that one was to read a book with LGBTQA plus representation, and for that one I decided to go with The Prince and the Dressmaker by Jen Wong. I did also receive an E in Transfiguration, and the challenge for that one was to read a book that's not the first in the series, and for that one I went with Wild Country by Anne Bishop. Moving on to the next subject that I completed, which was Divination, and to receive an A in the subject I had to read a white book, and for that one I chose The Demon Prince of Momochi House Volume 1 by Aya Shoto. And although the cover isn't completely white, I think the majority of it is white, so I decided to just count that. To receive an E in divination, I had to read a short story collection, and for this one I went with Fresh Ink, which is an anthology by various authors. And finally, to receive an O in divination, the challenge was to read the last book you bought / acquired. And at the time I could have chose between two different things, but because I had the audiobook for this one, that is The Right Swipe by Alicia Rye, that I used for that challenge. And that makes the third class or subject that I was able to get an O in. Moving on to the next class, which was herbology, and for that one I only got to an A in that class. And to receive an A, you were supposed to listen to an audiobook, and for that one I listened to The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary. This is one of the few audiobooks I listened to that I didn't have a physical copy for, so I figured I would just count that for that one. The next class that I completed one of the challenges in was arithmetic, and I only got an A, which was to read a book that ends on an even page number. And for that one I read The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. And finally, the last subject that I finished anything in was History of Magic. To receive an A in the subject I had to read a fantasy, and for that one I read Warrior of the Wild by Trisha Levenseller. To receive an E in History of Magic, I had to read a book that includes a map. For that challenge I read We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Faisal, and I think I showed this off in my TBR, but I will do it again just so you guys can see. Here is the map that was included in this book. And finally, to receive an O in the History of Magic, I was supposed to reread a favorite, or I could have read a classic. I decided to reread a favorite, which was Halfway to the Grave by Janine Frost. With all the challenges I was able to fulfill, I was able to complete all of my requirements, like I said, to get an A in Charms, Potions, Transfiguration, and Defense Against the Dark Arts. And then I was also able to get my 4 O's in selected disciplines. So wasn't exactly what I was going for, but I was able to read a majority of the challenges that I got down. If you're curious about what I thought about each of these books, you could definitely go check out my 2 wrap-ups that I have up for August, because I go into details obviously about each of the books that I read, my opinions about each of those books. That's all I have for this video. It is definitely a shorter one than normal, but I did want to wrap up my N.E.W.T.s, since I did mention that I was going to be participating in this readathon. According to, I guess, the grades that I received during this readathon, I would definitely be eligible to get the career that I wanted as far as how I set it up at the beginning. So yeah, this readathon, although it was a bit stressful at times, it was still a lot of fun. So I'm definitely looking forward to taking part in it again next year. If you participated in this specific readathon, let me know how you did. And yeah, that's all I have for you guys in this video. If you'd like to give it a thumbs up, and if you would like to see more from me, make sure you subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys again in the next one. Bye.